Welcome to Live with Thrive, the podcast dedicated to empowering Black and Brown women who are navigating the complexities of balancing womanhood, motherhood, and career. I am your host, Dr. Allison Harris Welcher, creator of Thrive Life Coaching. In each episode, we dive into uplifting conversations with trailblazing women who share their transformative journeys and powerful strategies for thriving in every area of life. If you're juggling a demanding career, family responsibilities, or aiming for personal growth, this podcast provides the inspiration and actionable insights you need. Join us as we celebrate the strength, resilience, and achievements of everyday Black and Brown women just like you. Together, we'll explore how to not just survive, but truly thrive in every aspect of your journey. Welcome back to Live with Thrive, the podcast where we honor the brilliance, the challenges, and the transformation of Black and Brown women navigating womanhood, motherhood, and career. I'm your host, Dr. Allison Harris Welcher, educator, coach, mom, and your biggest cheerleader as you push through burnout and stretch into your power. Today's episode is personal, timely, and necessary. We're diving deep into the real, raw experiences of Black motherhood. And we're not just talking about the Instagram perfect version that we all often see. We're talking about anxiety, exhaustion, rage, grief, and the fight to find harmony in all of it. One of the significant challenges Black women face when it comes to maternal mental health is the underdiagnosis of mental health issues. Black women are often less likely to seek help due to stigma and cultural barriers. In fact, a 2016 study in the psychiatric services revealed that postpartum depression and other mental health disorders are often underrepresented, and not diagnosed, due in part to a lack of cultural competence from healthcare providers. And there's a fear of being perceived as weak. Additionally, in the Black community, there's also a deep-rooted stigma surrounding mental health care. Many Black women feel like they're not allowed to show vulnerability or weaknesses, often because of societal expectations to be strong and resilient, something we've talked about on this show, the Superwoman complex. Additionally, a study in the Psychology of Women Quarterly sheds light on how these cultural pressures discourage many women from seeking support they need despite the emotional weight of motherhood. And to help us unpack all of that, because that was a lot, I am so thrilled to welcome two powerhouses to the mic and to our show, Tiffany Bishop and Whitney Coble. Welcome, welcome, ladies.
Hi, Dr. Allison. How are you?
Hi, welcome, welcome. Tiffany and Whitney are the founders of Raising Resilience. You also see they have lots of letters behind their name. Essentially, they are licensed clinical mental health therapists specializing in perinatal mental health for Black birthing individuals. Welcome to Live with Thrive. I'm so excited to have you all.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, I do want to loosen us up a little bit. And I'd like to start with a lightning round to help our listeners to get to know each of you brilliant ladies a little bit more. So I'll ask both of you, if motherhood had a theme song, what would yours be right now?
I would say I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was thinking about I'm somewhere between like Cleo Soul, like all this is gonna be all right and just be calm, but then also Beyonce and Jay-Z Boss.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, we're doing a lot, and so it's it's taken a lot to be able to manage all the things.
Yeah.
But I mean, some days I feel like, no, I'm just gonna flow like Cleo Soul, and then other days I'm like, no, I'm gonna get it done.
Yes, I love it. I love it. What about you, Whitney?
I was just thinking, let's see. Um, Definitely something from Beyonce Renaissance, just because it's the highs and the lows. It gives you a little bit of like
Yes.
spice and it throws a lot at you because I love Beyonce Renaissance. Like it's still my album. So I would say that whole album because Motherhood really takes you through so many different emotions. Some days you're happy, you love it. Some days you're like, get me out of here. What is going on? So I would definitely say Beyonce Renaissance, where you get a little taste of everything.
Speak the truth. I love it. Yes, we cannot. I mean, and that's one of the messages, right? We cannot regulate ourselves just to one thing, right? It is a dynamic experience. So love that. Love that. Tiffany, this one is for you. What's one non-negotiable part of your self-care routine, even if the day is chaotic? What do you have to do for yourself?
What I have to do for myself? Non-negotiable. I would say maybe, well, not maybe, my non-negotiable is trying to get somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes of movement a day. And my preference of movement is Pilates. So I try to do something. Maybe I might get on the reformer or do a little mat, or maybe I just stretch, but something to just give my body a hug.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Whitney, this is for you. Coffee, tea, or don't talk to me after 10 a.m.
Oh Lord, I want both. Coffee, tea. You know what? I have really been on this thing. Like, I never liked coffee. Okay. I've never been a coffee person. But lately I've been like giving, because I don't like, I mean, and I know, please don't let the people from the South beat me up after this episode, but I've never really liked sweet tea. Like, I mean, I'll drink it if I'm like out somewhere, but I will say this, I am really exploring coffees and teas, like just the different flavors of stuff. Yeah. I've never really been open, but I'll give it coffee.
Give it coffee. I love that. Little shout out to Indigo Charlotte. We love that coffee house. Yes. I too am a coffee person. I actually have to restrict myself from having coffee some days. I'm like, do I really need it? I just want it.
Yeah. That's how I am with matcha.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I don't drink coffee, but I'm like, I don't really need it.
Right.
But
Well, this last question is for both of you all. Fill in the blank. The thing that surprised me most about motherhood was?
The thing that surprised me the most is how much it's not about the kids. Mm-hmm. And how much it's about me, right? Like I was not expecting them to hold up a mirror to me and like show me all the things that I need to work on.
Wow. Yeah. We're going to get into this. You getting us deep already. What about you? The thing that surprised me most about motherhood was?
I would say how much is more about like you regulating your own emotions, because kids are kids. Like they're going to feel
all day, every day.
How much you learn about kids. Like kids are going to say how they feel, do what they feel. And they do within their bounds and limits. But I would say it's really about you and how you choose to respond and how you regulate yourself, because kids are still learning. So one thing I've learned is like, it's really more about you. Like how Tiff said, it's a reflection of you. And it's really about, because as adults, we preach all the time, like, I'm an adult, I'm working. But literally, like with kids, you have to really, really, really be so self-aware about how you respond, your habits, your daily habits, they follow along with that, how you eat, how you talk to people, because they really will question you and be like, well, why did you say that? But you told me this. So yes, I would say it's really about how you regulate your emotions and like really like learning and understanding yourself. Kids teach you so much about yourself, and the things that you preach, you got to actually practice with them, because they will definitely call you out.
Absolutely. The filter is not there.
Yes. Oh no, what is that? Like,
yes.
No filter at all.
So let's go ahead and jump in, ladies. I want to start with the heartbeat of raising resilience. You both built this beautiful space for Black mothers to feel seen, supported, and safe. Something that so many of us needed, but honestly didn't know how to ask for. And I actually remember joining one of you all's like Instagram lives or something you all were doing. I was like, oh my gosh, this space is amazing. But what even inspired you to start this journey?
Mm-hmm. So, a very long time ago, Whitney and I used to be child therapists. So we used to work with an agency who specifically worked with children and families. We used to do school-based as well. And we started noticing the reoccurring theme of the way the parents were describing their birthing experience. Essentially, they didn't know that's what they were doing, but that's kind of the pieces we were pulling out. And we were seeing this correlation between the difficulties that they were having with their children and the way that they perceive their behaviors. And the same thing that we said, right? Like, yes, these are some difficult behaviors, but it's also pieces are missing about the parents, the mom specifically, that is not being addressed. Yeah. And also during the same time, I had just had my first daughter, my first child. And I was noticing things like, oh, the world or the media tells us, it paints this picture of what postpartum depression is. Yeah. And it leaves a lot of blanks and a lot of things up for, people to develop their own opinion, and it can get really scary. And so even being a mental health therapist, what I was experiencing during my after my first child, I didn't know I'm like, I don't feel like myself, but I don't think it's postpartum depression because it didn't look like what the media told me it looked like.
Yeah.
And we went to a training in Chicago through Postpartum Support International.
Yeah.
It's like our organizing body for perinatal mental health. And light bulbs were just going off, and just all the pieces were coming together. And I'm like, this is crazy that me as a therapist, we're talking about mental health stuff. Me as a therapist who have been a therapist for some time.
Yeah.
At this point, didn't know anything about this.
Wow.
So I don't know anything about this. I'm noticing in the work that I'm doing at the agency with the children and families, they obviously don't know anything about this. So we need to be able to create this space where we are talking about this, so we are not making motherhood, it's already an isolating experience, but let's not make it more isolating. Let's not make it more challenging and just like riddled with all these stigmas about what's actually happening, and then the help that's here to be able to help you work through it. Because, oftentimes we hear motherhood is just hard, right? Like, that's just what it is, right? Like, you'll get through it. Like, what'd you expect, right? But it doesn't have to feel like this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. One, love that you all followed your heart and the whispers, as I call them, right? You're like, wait, if I'm having this experience and they're having this experience, who's helping us?
Yes.
So just first, thank you for your courage and listening, right, to what you were feeling yourself and others. I am curious, what are some of the common struggles you noticed in Black and Brown mothers that made you say this needs to be addressed differently? You talk a little bit about working at the child agency, but what specifically were you seeing, Whitney?
I think a lot of things that we saw early on, and even now that shows up and resonates, is burnout.
Okay.
Needing permission to rest. Feeling this sense of not being able to ask for support. Also this thing of like that motherhood requires strength. Like me and Tiff really try to like deconstruct why a lot of our clients and even ourselves feel this sense of like that you have to earn permission to rest or earn permission to take a break, or you got to earn permission to take a day off of work that doesn't surround the kids. In this sense of asking for help, because a lot of our clients, those that are trying to conceive, that have experienced infertility, it's this thing of like, well, if I ask people around me for support, like, hey, do you mind doing this for me? It brings on this sense of now I'm a burden or those things. So, one of the things we commonly see is burnout, guilt and shame, permission to need rest. And also just feeling the sense of like I can't ask for support.
Mm.
In the sense that I have to do it all by myself. And one of the things about motherhood, parenthood, it is not something you're supposed to do by yourself. And it is something that you don't. And I think another thing is you don't always have to enjoy motherhood. Like it's no handbook that says every single day of this that you have to enjoy it. You don't always have to like it either. There's parts of motherhood that we don't enjoy.
Right. Yeah. I so appreciate you saying that and helping to normalize that, right? Because again, the world will tell you, you're a mom, it's all lovely, it's happy, the cutesy, you get to dress your baby, and this and that. And there are really hard moments. And I think what I've learned, depending on the mother, depending on the woman, right? I've had folks say who they love the newborn stage.
Mm-hmm.
That was not my journey. I am not here for it. Now, this toddler phase, and folks think I'm crazy. I am looking forward to my children being preteens and teens. Now, I'm sure folks are out here like, no, girl, you crazy. Now, that's my background. I was a high school teacher. I was a middle school principal. But I'm like, I'm ready for that type of engagement and dialogue push. But that newborn phase, baby, it about took me out.
So much stuff.
Don't sign me up for it. Like do not sign me up.
Right.
I tell my husband that too. Like I'm especially with my daughter, right? I'm ready for her to get to a stage where like we can really talk and like be realistic about things, because the things that you're saying is close to delusion. Like and he's like, don't rush them. And I'm like, I'm not trying to rush them, but I am surely looking forward to it.
But by the time they get that age, they don't want to talk. Everything is, I don't know.
We can get somewhere. But again, it's I think really elevating how dynamic the experience of motherhood is, even in the micro moments. So within a day, but also from a larger perspective of each stage is truly different, right? And you don't know what you don't know. You get to that next stage and like, oh, I got to figure this out now.
Yeah. I describe it to my clients like a video game. Like, let's say you're playing Super Mario, right? You defeat the villain at the end of that level, and then you get to the next level, and it's like, dang, it's another villain at the end of this level too. And it's like, yes, but what happens is you're never starting from scratch. You take the skills that you've learned from that previous season and figure out how to apply them to the next season. Doesn't mean that season is going to be free of challenges, but you have some type of experience. You've learned that you can do hard things. If you ain't learned nothing else, you learned that you can do hard things.
Definitely one. My mom always says, she was like, I enjoy you as an adult. Like, she was like, because like you're your own person, we can actually have like actual back and forth. But she was like, I'm also not responsible for you. So she was like, I love the part of parenting where like we're both adults, like we're finally both in the same space. She was like, because the parts where we were like not in the same space, and I'm in one space of life and you're in the other, like Tiff said, she was like, it always felt like delusion. Like you want to do all these unrealistic things, and I'm trying to remind you that like life is real. So like my mom always said that she was like, I enjoyed the part now that we're both adults and we can both see the world in the same sense, but you're still your own person. So like I think that part of like seeing them grow up and be their own little person, like, wow, like I actually do like you, like you're
And Dr. Ellison, I don't want to jump ahead, but that makes me think about, again, like going back to the picture that society paints, the pressure that they place on moms to be responsible for all of the things.
That's true.
To carry the mental load, the invisible load. And that is tiring.
It is.
Like, I have a lot of days where I'm just like, I really just want to worry about myself. I don't want to have to worry about, did you wash your butt? Because I want to go get in the shower and wash mine. And it's like this burden and this mental load that's placed on moms that makes us, we get decision fatigue, because I had to figure out what was for dinner. I had to figure out all these things, right? And it's just, we just need these moments where we just get to worry about ourselves and don't have to be responsible for carrying the burden for everybody else in our lives.
It's so true. I think it has been normalized, and it's almost an unlearning, right? We have seen generations of mothers. I actually did a podcast with my mom talking about the different expectations, and there were unspoken truths, right? Of like, this is just what you do.
Yes.
And I think now we're no longer just saying, nah, like, let's talk about that. And
Mhm.
we know stuff has to get done, right? We
Mhm.
get it, but do we always have to be the one to do
Right.
it, right?
That's true.
And we get to, I think we're also beginning to question what has to be done, right?
Mhm.
Is it something I can delegate, or is it something I'm just saying, nah, I'm not doing it, right? I'm
That's
making
true.
a choice. My children are in daycare, and I tried one good time with these cutesy Valentine Day things or whatnot. And people think, oh, that's simple, but you don't want your baby going and everybody else got stuff,
Yes.
So, I I said, oh, I am not the Pinterest mama. That's not me.
No.
That's not
Yes.
my precious time that I have. I don't want to spend time creating little cutesy stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna go get you some from the grocery store that already in the Valentine's Day
Hey, just write a name.
package, and that's my choice, right?
Yes.
And I think we have to make that unlearning of like you've got to do it all, or you have to do it the way everyone says. Okay,
Right.
That's true.
Right. Right. And yeah, that's another thing that was surprising for me. I am innately creative.
yeah,
But also having after having children, I'm like, where did that go? Because I don't have the space for that anymore.
yeah,
But because I'm so creative, right? Or was, I used to think about I had this idea of when I had children, I was going to be that Pinterest mom. I was
yeah,
going to be making the cute lunches and cutting the
Mm-hmm.
peanut butter and jelly out in heart shapes.
yeah.
Like I was going to be doing all the things. And it, there's really this time where we have to come to the awareness of what we expected motherhood to look like, who we expected ourselves to be in
Yeah.
this season, and the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right? Because when our reality is not lining up with the expectations,
That's true.
that dissonance is a hard place to
Oof.
live. And
Mhm.
we put so much pressure on ourselves
Yeah.
to try to live up to those expectations. And I talk to my clients about, let's talk about the circumstances in which you created those expectations. Are
Right.
those the same circumstances that you're living now? Because it is so unfair
Right.
to force yourself to try to meet expectations that you created in different circumstances.
Mhm.
If the circumstances can change, why can't the expectations change?
I love that. I love that. It makes me wonder, and this might be a little controversial, but I'm going to ask it this way.
Okay.
Do we create, because of those unrealistic expectations, do we create the burnout for ourselves? Does that make sense? Like, do we put ourselves in that situation of burnout? I won't say depression, because you all are the experts, and I want you all to give like the definition of that, and because I think we got some work to do in the Black community understanding what that means. But from a burnout perspective, do we as individuals put ourselves into that situation because of the unrealistic expectations that we just are holding tight onto? What do you all think? I don't know.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's societal pressures,
Okay.
our own internalization. And another thing I think that comes with that I talk to my clients about is parenting out of lack. So a lot of times when a lot of my clients parent out of this thing, well, my mom or my dad didn't do this, so I'm going to do it. So then it creates this realization of like, but I have to do that. I have to show up at every game, or I have to show up at every dance recital. I can't say no if I really can't pick my child up because today was my free day because my mom didn't pick me up and I had to stay at the school sick. So I think a lot of times it becomes like Tiff said, like, what is your expectations and standards and how is that aligning? So I think it comes from a lot of things. Like if we just wrote out I make my clients write out like a roadmap, and that roadmap is like, what is society telling you?
Yep.
Society tells me that I have to be a good mom because I'm Black, and I don't want to be this certain quote unquote Black mom that doesn't care about their kids. But who created that? This sense of like, well, my mom didn't do this, so I have to do it. Your kids never experienced their mom being their mom, so why are you parenting them out of lack? This sense of like, well, I'm a single mom, I don't have nobody else's support. Okay, well, let's look at, okay, with you being a single mom, what are the financial means where you can delegate tasks? So sometimes we're in our own way, and then sometimes it's external. I think it really depends on the individual and what's impacting their realization of like being a mother, in those things. And also sometimes like coming into motherhood when you really didn't want to be a mom, there are so many moms me and Tiff work with where they're like, I got pregnant and I didn't really want to be this, so I have to be a good mom, or we struggled so hard to become parents. So now it's like I can't do bad because this child enacts to be here. And I always tell my clients, when you say my child enacts to be here, that doesn't mean you still have to burn yourself out in order to be this quote unquote parent. So I think it's external and internal things that impact that. But yeah, a lot of times we do get in our own way of burning ourselves out because we don't stop and pause to say, is this really needed in this moment? And which cup is that coming from?
Well, do you make a good point, about people who say that they didn't want to be a mom and they just like happened to end up in this situation. I also think it's fair to give moms a space to say, like, even though I wanted to be a mom, I didn't know this is what it was going to be like. And if I did, then no, absolutely not. Right. Because we need the space to be able to say that. And again, to emphasize what Whitney said about the external expectations, the societal norms that's placed upon us. I think it is both, but I think I believe that our external pressures and societal norms heavily influences our internal expectations, because that is the way in which we learn about the world. Right. I was talking to my client the other day about how our inner voice is the voice of our parents, but their voice was the inner voice of their parents. Right. And then we just keep going to where we're in this place where our parents were operating out of lack, out of pure survival, having no autonomy, right? Situations that were life and death in those situations when our ancestors were enslaved are not necessarily life and death right now. But because all these people's thoughts and beliefs have now trickled down into our inner thoughts, right? Our inner voice, we have to do a lot of work to be able to pause and say, like, okay, I know this is what has been said to me, right? Like, don't let the kids act up in the grocery store. They need to be quiet. They need not to be crawling all over the floor and stuff, right? Like, let's really assess what's going to happen if they do.
Right.
If they were if our ancestors, if children were acting out in the middle of it, yes, that was definitely life or death situation. Somebody was going to come snatch them up. But we in Publix, baby, this your kid. Ain't nobody.
I'm spending my money here. I dare.
Okay, ain't nobody going to say nothing to me about my kids acting the food in Publix, right? So just being able to really bring this awareness of, just because I think it doesn't mean that it's true, and just because I feel it doesn't mean that it's a fact.
I love that. And it goes back to what Whitney was saying earlier around us, right? Like us as a parent. My children have just been all kinds of out of order in the library, in the kids section. And I have felt my heat rise because they loud in the kids section, and it's the kids section at the library.
It is.
Me, right? It's my emotional regulation, right? How am I managing that? And again, these are things that I don't think folks have been allowed to explore or to make sense of, right? So powerful, so good.
It makes you give grace to mothers too. When you see that mom pushing her child around in the grocery store and the kid is on 10, I credit those moms, because it's like, I'm still going to get my grocery list done, whether you're having your moment. I'm gonna get my grocery. It makes you give more grace to people in the moment of life. You don't have to do nothing more than what you came here to do.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. Well, I want to make sure we get to this conversation of depression. And so first, I'd love, Tiffany, if you could just give us, what is the definition of depression? Let's just like name it for folks, so folks are understanding what we're talking about here.
Oh, the definition. I should have brought my DSM over here.
Or what should people be thinking or understanding how it shows up? Because here's really the case. People are oftentimes brushing things off as stress, or I'm just overwhelmed, right? And there's a continuum here.
Yes. Because all stress isn't bad stress, right? Sometimes our nervous system does need that like uptick to be able to problem solve, right? Conflict resolution. And when we think about, I know you asked me about depression.
Sure.
I also want to be clear for our audience that perinatal mental health conditions come on a spectrum, right? And so while postpartum depression is the one or perinatal, because perinatal is the it's like a time period. It includes pregnancy and the postpartum period. So while postpartum depression is the most commonly known, condition, there are so many more. And it doesn't have to only occur in the postpartum period. It can also happen during pregnancy. And so generally with depression, what we're seeing is days of sadness that you really cannot shake, right? We all have moments of sadness because every day is just not going to be our day, right? But just this constant deep darkness, feelings of sadness, feeling of shame, feeling of guilt, lack of motivation, hopeless. Sometimes that can include thoughts of harming ourselves, right? But just this overall sense of stuck and dark and out, right? And like no matter what is happening around you, you just can't seem to pull yourself out of that, right?
Yeah.
But what's most commonly known that we see a lot in our practice, especially with Black women, is perinatal anxiety, which is it's associated. My belief, I ain't did no research on it, but from what we see in our practice, I feel like a lot of Black women are very high functioning because we have to be, right? Like we live in a society where we are very hyper vigilant in how we are perceived. And we want to make sure that we are on our P's and Q's, and we want to be prepared because we have been taught that we have got to be so much better just to get a little bit, right? And so we learn to adapt to that by being the best and doing and trying the hardest and doing the most
in everything.
Everything, right? And motherhood is probably the first time you've ever been presented with something that's like, oh shit, no matter what I do, it's still chaos.
I can't control it.
I cannot control it. No matter what, I do all the things. I bought all the things they told me to buy. I read all the books they told me to read, and these kids still won't get it together.
I'm gentle parenting, and these kids still.
They're not gentle kidding.
Yeah.
Like what? And so this probably is the first time where our world is shooken up.
Yeah.
And it's like there's we really come face to face with what's within your control and what's not. And if it's not in your control, boo, you gotta just let that go.
That's true.
Yeah.
And so that's what we see often. We see that perinatal anxiety, we see the trying to control, we see the fixation on only I can take care of the baby because ain't nobody gonna take care of this baby like I take care of it, right? Trying to take on all the things because we are trying to grasp for control because the matrescence, which is the transition to becoming a mother, is so uncontrollable, right? There's really nothing in that we can control. And so we talk a lot about trying to, again, navigate those expectations to see if we can find some like sense of calm within our nervous system so we're not always so anxious. And there's other, perinatal mental health conditions too, but those really are the most common. A new one that it's not in the DSM, but it's called maternal rage or mom rage. And so for me, I feel like it's like a byproduct of anxiety. It's like anxiety's cousin. And it's this sense of always being irritable because you're on edge all the time, right? Like there are so many things being required from you and you do not have the capacity to handle all the things, to hold all the things. So you become snappy. Right? You're not getting enough sleep. So then that also causes us to be irritable. So there's really a plethora, and I want us to be able to have the language to it. So we can be reminded that we're not doing this wrong. It isn't something that we're doing wrong. There's something else going on.
Yeah. I love that you said having the language for it, because as I reflect on the experiences that I had early on, mind you, my first was born 2 months before the pandemic officially started. Second was during the pandemic, and just didn't know what was going on and couldn't make sense. Is like, is this because of the pandemic? Is this because this is what's supposed to happen? I didn't have the language. People around me did not have the language. Which then did not, I think, allow folks to like help me navigate or like, it's going to be okay, baby. It's going to be fine. well, that ain't what I need right now.
What I want to hear.
Yeah, what I want to hear. And so what I'd love to hear from you, Whitney, then, given the variety of mental health issues that could be experienced, what is the support? What is the support that's available, right? Because certainly prayer, is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes, mama can come hold the baby for a few hours and let you nap. But let's talk about real support. What can that look like, and what services do you all provide at Raising Resilience?
So one thing is just me and Tiff always tell clients it's making sure if you're open to therapy, because one thing we've learned is not every mom wants therapy. Like that may not be what their support is. But I think one thing is like even learning what maternal mental health is, because it starts in preconception. Like before you even have a child, you need to be aware of like, what is my normal status of mental health? Am I a highly functioning anxious person? Like we have women that come to us before they even have children to say, okay, I function in this space. I'm typically irritable. I'm typically a happy-go-lucky person, typically things. So figuring out what's your stable status. And then like one of the things is like learning what maternal mental health is like, and that way you have words to identify what it is. So when you're like, okay, do I need a maternal mental health therapist or do I need a pelvic floor therapist? Because one thing about the space of becoming a mother, your body is just important as your brain. And we tend to only focus on like the recovery part, the body part, but like, okay, what are all the supports I have out on my table? You have a pelvic floor therapist, you have a maternal mental health therapist, you have your spirituality. Another big thing I think is having that conversation with who is your support. Because me and Tiff work with the mom or the birthing individual, but the person that's in your home with you, the other adult, whether it's your mom, your husband, your partner, whoever, what does support look like from them? Wow. Because we get a lot of moms where they're like, I really enjoy therapy and I like this, but my partner doesn't get it. When I'm trying to have conversations with them, they're like, oh, well, you wanted to be a mom, so what's the issue? Or like, how do you even have a conversation about intimacy, about your body, those things? Like, so support, I think, from just the maternal mental health purpose is like looking at yourself holistically. Because for some of our clients, therapy is their go-to, but me and Tiff help them filter out, okay, let's put 10 minutes in your morning routine where you can just sit in silence. Let's talk about like, oh, you said you wanted to work out. You may not be able to go hard in the gym, but let's get you a walking pad. You did 10 minutes of walking today. So support starts mentally, but one of the things me and Tiff learned with maternal mental health, you have to look at the whole person. What's their unmet need? I always ask my clients, what's your unmet need in this moment? Oh, I don't get to sit down and eat lunch. So it may be just that point of like, what's that person's unmet need? And then deciding how do we go from there. But your mental and your body are so profound during this period. But we really offer that support of finding out what's that unmet need and how can we work within your bounds to get it done. It may not look like what you expect, but you walked 10 minutes this morning and that actually made you feel better. Or we told you, hey, let's go see your doctor because your vitamin levels are deficient and that's why you feel chronic fatigue every day. That's why it's hard for you to get up and show up. So one of the things me and Tiff do is breaking it down and seeing what the unmet need is mentally and physically so we can figure out how can you live a more conducive life that feels okay.
I love that. That's such a powerful question. What is your unmet need? I love that. I love that. Well, I know that y'all are hosting an event soon where you're really going to speak about all of these things. And honestly, ladies, I feel like we have just been like sitting on our couch, chit chat. We have to use our script. This has been such a great conversation, but we want to make sure that folks know how to access you all and hear about this event. So tell us a little bit around what's going to be happening Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, so Nurture and Bloom is a maternal experience, a wellness experience, right? Like we want to be able to show our audience and the people who attend, the participants, what it looks like to be poured into, because you do so much of pouring into others. And we really want to create this space of you just sit back and relax and we got it, right? Like we are going to give you what you are deserving of on a daily basis. And it might not look like all of these things every single day, but how do we find ways to implement small pieces of caring for yourself? So day one is movement based, because like Whitney said, motherhood is not just about the physical changes, but it's how our physical needs and wellness is intertwined with our mental wellness and our mental needs. So we are going to host the Pilates class. I'm going to lead the mat class. And then we have a sound bath healer who's going to do a sound bath for us afterwards. And we're going to have like light dinner because it's from 7 to 9 on May 9th. So it's going to be a light dinner. There's going to be a mobile bar there. So she's going to have mocktails, cocktails, and then we have some freshly squeezed fruit juices that's also going to be there. So it's just really going to be a time for you to reconnect with your physical body, because a lot of times we are just in autopilot and we're just on go, and we're really not paying attention to the body that's like holding us and carrying us through this life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what day 1 is. And then day 2 is we have an amazing panel full of experts that really show up for women and families in this maternal health space. So we have pelvic floor therapists, we have other therapists, just people to really talk about what this experience looks like and what does it mean to really show up for yourself and care for yourself in a sustainable way. Because we're going to have a flower bar there where we can build our own bouquets as well, and a fragrance bar. But those are not things you get to take home with you. I mean, you get to take them home with you, but you can't take the whole bar and do these things every day when you need to. So we want to give you that luxury, but also our panel is here to be able to tell us what it looks like to be able to show up for ourselves on a daily basis in small doses.
I love that. I love that. Well, I know I am personally very excited for this event and love that you all are creating the opportunity for women, Black women, to come together to experience this. We know that so many women don't take time for themselves. And again, society will tell you, oh, it's Mother's Day weekend, you need to be with your children, right? But it's Mother's Day weekend. This is how I want to be celebrated. This is what I want to do for myself. So please make sure you take time to check out the Nurture and Bloom event and get your tickets. I understand tickets are selling out quickly. It is a curated space. So we would love to have everybody be there, but we also just want to be thoughtful to make sure we create the environment and ambiance that we want. So be sure to check out Nurture and Bloom. As we begin to close out, Tiffany and Whitney, what wisdom would you offer just as parting words to our audience?
I would say showing up for yourself is priority. A lot of times in this space, as women, as moms, trying to conceive, being a partner, being a wife, being a husband, all of those things, being a mom, even how you show up in your career is like we tend to put ourselves last and prioritize what's the immediate need. But I would say always remembering that it's okay to prioritize you. We've been taught to always move ourselves down. But in order to really feel fulfilled and to show up as how you want to, is sometimes your ability to say no. And your ability to put yourself first and understand what that feels like. Because if you're putting yourself last, you get depleted very quickly. So I always say one of the things is don't feel wrong for prioritizing your needs and what you need to feel fulfilled. So it's okay to prioritize yourself. You're not selfish to prioritize you.
I love that. Tiffany?
I would just say give yourself grace, right? Like you've never been in this season of your life before, right? So like you're new, and it's okay to be novice at things. We learn as we go. So just give yourself grace as you learn. Some days will be you're gonna. There's this meme that I see all the time. It's like some days I rock motherhood, other days it rocks me. And like and let it, whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be. Just give yourself grace while doing it, because this journey is not linear. No matter what society tells us, no matter what social media and the Pinterest moms on TikTok tell us, right? It's not linear. You get to choose what this looks like for you.
Absolutely. Great words of wisdom. I encourage everyone to please go and follow Raising Resilience on social media platforms so that you can stay connected, not only to the events that they're sharing, but even reach out for the support that they do offer. I think we have to realize we don't have to do this alone, and there are experts who can help you navigate this stage. Tiffany and Whitney, thank you for not just doing the work, but being the work. You are truly raising resilience. And the clients you serve, I know, in the collective spirit of Black motherhood, feel supported. So thank you for the work you're doing. To all of my listeners, you are not alone. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are simply being stretched. Like Tiffany said, you can be novice, right? Like you can learn, you can grow, and you are still blooming. So until next time, please keep thriving. All right. Bye-bye.